the difficult second album for a breakout star of 2023, a fourth studio effort from Reading Rock's finest, a fifth LP from Santa Fe Country's finest, a buzzy debut from a New York-based singer-songwriter, and a scuzzy second from a Dublin post-punk trio. This is 5 to 9's Album of the Month episode for May 2025. I'm Andrew Belt, editor of the 5 to 9 blog. And joining me are Karl Blakesley of New Music Central and Kiley Larsen, the founder of Santa Fe record label Mañana Records. So how are we doing, guys?
Yeah, good today. Summary. Yeah, you can probably just about see the sun coming through the window behind. So although I'm tired, I'm feeling the radiant.
Photosynthesized. Lovely. Okay, summary. That's a good start. So yeah, May, pretty good month. I think before we even get into our highlights, just wanted to note that obviously, Kiley, you had another release day last month. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Release of Free Range Buddha's album Hatched via Mañana Records. So what number are we on now in terms of your releases? Because you set it up, a couple of years ago? And
yeah, I think as far as physical releases, that was 10.
10.
Which is good. Yeah, we're getting out three or four a year and doing as much as you can with limited time and budget as it goes for an indie label. But yeah, Free Range Buddhas, I guess I can, tick that off on my highlights of the month, because that was, I guess, a big part of this month for me. We've spent, over the last 6 months on that record, getting it ready and pressed and promoted and all those good things. And I just, I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. The way that Free Range Buddhas have grown since I've lived in Santa Fe, and from the last record, I think Hatched just does a great job at capturing them as a live band, which I think is their bread and butter. And it really hits that spot without being, overly indulgent, minus 15-minute songs. But I think as someone who's into that kind of thing, I think it's a good use of time. And so really happy for those guys. They deserve all the best, and excited to continue to talk about it through the rest of the year.
Yeah, 10th record. That's a landmark. So I was just intrigued. Didn't realize I'd hit upon such a good number in that respect. But yeah, certainly something to celebrate for sure. And both Karl and I have listened to it, and very much enjoying the, if you like a guitar solo, if you like your old school kind of psychedelic rock, and also a variety of singers on the album, then yeah, one definitely to check out. I mean, Karl, just whilst we're on the topic, your thoughts on Hatched?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say cracking album, and then I realised that that's...
Yeah, no, Free Range, Hatched, they do enjoy eggs.
Yeah. The puns have been non-stop since they decided on that name. Can't stop with it.
But no, yeah, just a terrific album. Really enjoyed digging into it. Like you said, if you enjoy your psych rock, if you enjoy indulging in these really cool 13-minute psychedelic rock tracks, definitely give it a go.
There we go. So yeah, a personal one to bring in straight up, but we'll now sort of go into the wider world with our highlights. I mean, is that taking up one of your three then, Kiley, or do you have sort of three extra highlights for me?
I think
that's to you.
That's taken up one of them. The other two, just a complete 180, 2 hip hop records from this month that I absolutely loved. Billy Woods, Gollywog, solid as always. I mean, just there's an amazing feature on every track here. And, Karl's talked a little bit about the beats are just kind of otherworldly, left field. And there's no one like Billy Woods in the game right now. And I just love, how weird he can get with it with each record that comes out. Um, and then, I would probably have had that as my favorite hip hop release of the year, but then at the end of the month, out of nowhere comes, I think it's John Michel. I think it's Michael and Anthony James Ego Trip, which has a very similar cover to the Swans record we were just talking about before we started recording. But yeah, I wish I had more knowledge about these two, but this record is just out of control great and top production, top bars. Yeah, if it's I'm not sure if it's flying under the radar or not, but if it is, like, they deserve way more listenership because yeah, this is one of those hip hop records that just hits a really special place and gets you reinvigorated on the genre.
There we go. The yin and the yang of Kylie's world there, from psych rock to hip hop. Karl, what about yourself? Your highlights from May?
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely second those two. Yeah, especially that Billy Woods one. He doesn't always resonate with me, but that was definitely one where it was almost like because it was a little bit weirder. I think it pulled me in a bit more, and yeah, just a really great record. But yeah, May, always a busy one. Start of festival season, bucket of releases. So it was hard. It was very hard to choose three, but I went for one album, one gig, and one festival. I'll start with the gig, which was right at the start of the month. Irish indie outfit Soda Blonde played the Bodega here in Nottingham, a band I've been following since they were known as Little Green Cars. I think that was around 2016, 2017. They played Dot to Dot Festival. And I didn't actually see them that year, but it was kind of a discovery at that time. And yeah, just been waiting, 8 or 9 years to finally see them live. Managed to do that at the start of this month, and yeah, didn't disappoint. Played all the best songs off the two Soda Blonde records, as well as their recent EP, which actually came out at the start of May, People Pleaser. So that's another one that I'll just recommend because that's a really great little EP. But yeah, just one of those really magical shows where, yeah, just been waiting so long to hear these songs live, and they were even better than I imagined they would be. There was one really beautiful moment as well where Theo Rourke, the lead singer, her and the guitarist jumped into the crowd to perform their song, Space Baby. And yeah, it started out just her voice and the acoustic guitar, almost like a campfire, sing along. And then she got like just the crowd to join in with her on the chorus. And it was just, yeah, a magical moment and really great show, that one. And then the festival highlight, this one was tough because I had both live at Leeds and Dot to Dot last weekend, which were amazing as ever. But the one I want to shout out is Get Together Festival in Sheffield, which was officially the start of my festival season. And it's the second year that I've attended this one. So not as much as live at Leeds or Dot to Dot, but it's quickly becoming, one of my favourite days of the year. It's held in this wonderful district of Sheffield called Kelham Island, which is just, this 1 mile stretch of breweries, music venues, art hubs, just a really, really cool place. Great vibe to it. And yeah, the lineup was just fantastic again this year. Started the day with a band we talked about back in March, which was Nottingham Darling's Divorce, who played to absolutely packed main stage. It was probably the busiest the main stage got, certainly when I was in there during the day. It was actually 1 in and 1 out at one point with people trying to get in, so that was amazing to see. And yeah, they had like a local choir come out to join them at the end for one of the songs, and it was just a really beautiful moment. So yeah, they were definitely the highlight, but across the day, some amazing discoveries. Montreal electronic outfit Patch were amazing. Indie pop outfit Chinese American Bear, they were also great. and BC Camplight, who, as we know, hasn't always done it for me on record, but yeah, opened up on Kicking Up a Fuss before playing some of his new material, and yeah, fully won me over with that live performance. So you'll be pleased to hear that, Andrew, I'm sure. But yeah, ended the day with one of my festival favourites, Swim Deep. Got to hear some of the songs off their last record finally for the first time, because I didn't see them on their last tour. So yeah, I mean, it was one of those shows that where some of the crowd were already kind of like quite drunk by that point. That's the downside of, I guess, hosting it in a load of breweries, is people maybe go a bit too far. But yeah, still appreciated their performance as well. And yeah, just a great day. And yeah, anyone up north, just the perfect kick off to festival season. So that was my gig, that was my festival. And then in terms of albums, I quickly want to shout out my album highlight outside of the 5 we're about to discuss, which is yeah, the much debated, heavily divisive new album from Sleep Token, which, yeah, not a band I've been particularly bothered about up until this point. Yeah, no, they had a lot of distractors, and I kind of listened to their last album, wasn't really feeling it. And then on the flip side of that, they've also got like a quite obsessive fan base. And yeah, I think this album is quite reflective of that. You know, you'll either love the like genre bending like madness that they present on this, or you'll think it's the worst thing you've ever heard. And it's you know, it's quite commercial sounding, it's quite superficial, but at the same time, I'm quite drawn to it for all its weirdness and uniqueness. So yeah, it's just a wild ride. It's got metal and math rock 1 minute, then it goes into trap and R&B. The melodies are some of the catchiest I've heard all year. Just like real earworms throughout the record. And yeah, I feel like a big issue is people are billing them, or well, no, they're billing themselves, I guess, as a metal band, which yeah, I mean, then I wouldn't say, for me, there's metal elements, but really, if I were to tie it to anything, they are a pop band. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, even that maybe doesn't do them justice, because like so many twists and turns with the genres. And yeah, it's just one of those that when I was listening to it, it was like, where's this album going? It was just an amazing first experience. And I feel like almost like any good TV show, like nothing will top that first listen, because it's, you know, once you know the story, it's never going to be as good. But, you know, I've still played it a bunch this month and definitely thought that was one worth shouting out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it translates to a live performance when I see them at Download in a few weeks. So yeah, those were my 3.
And not the first podcast to talk about Sleep Token recently. I don't know if you saw with The Rest is Entertainment with Richard Osman and Marina Hyde. So
yeah, where it's like it wouldn't even get through the metal.
Yes,
it wouldn't set the metal detector off.
Yeah, in sort of saying how non-metal they are, and quite strong statement for one of the most kind of uncontroversial figures in kind of British entertainment. Richard Osman, he's basically a quiz show host. If you're unfamiliar, Kylie, I don't know if you know Richard Osman, but his main claim to fame, at least from a music side of things, is his brother being the bassist in Suede. But Richard Osman is just big in. There's all these like I say, quiz shows which he runs, and does the podcast on TV with the Guardian columnist Marina Hyde, and basically very much tore apart Sleep Token. And I never thought I'd see Richard Osman referring to Sleep Token and having such a strong opinion. But there we go. And then that was a bit of a rabbit out of the hat. I thought you were going to be choosing between Dot to Dot and Live at Leeds, and then you're like, oh no, just this third festival. So yeah,
it's a tough one.
Quite the month you've had. So for me, I'm going to replicate your kind of 3 genres of what to talk about. So 1 festival for me, 1 gig, and 1 album. So festival season kicking off for me in Reading, which was Are You Listening Festival, multi-venue festival in the town. Just always good fun, really. Not huge names often, but in the past they have had the likes of Idols as they were sort of breaking, and other artists such as Field Music. This year the headliners were Big Special, who were playing Sub 89, one of the biggest venues in Reading. And it actually coincided with the first year anniversary of their debut album, which was a very fine 15-song album they brought out last year. A lot of nuance on it. The duo from Birmingham, which is basically a drummer and a singer, and they play with a backing track, not too dissimilar to Bob Vylan in that respect, although I'd say probably quite different otherwise. But yeah, so they very much good fun. If you've not seen them live, would definitely recommend them. And two other selections from this from the day is Y, and that's the letter Y. They're a new band from the kind of scene of Warm Doucher and Fat White Family in South London, that kind of South London pub scene. And yeah, a couple of figures from those bands. And with a new female singer who, they play this kind of interesting dancey type music, which with the first band I saw all day and really brought the energy. And to be honest, they weren't surpassed all day either. So one's definitely to watch. They've just brought out their debut EP recently, which is a good one, self-titled Y. And then Kanya, so KAH''NYA. Came over from Zimbabwe, I believe, and now residing in Oxford. Had a bit of exposure on BBC Oxfordshire, and her second year at Are You Listening, and she performed outside. Nice sunny day, lovely voice, some good catchy tunes, and the only cover of the day with 4 Non-Blondes, What's Going On, which is always welcome. So that was a fun day out. And then, yeah, kind of preempting one of our album reviews, but Kiley very kindly got me guest list for Esther Rose at the Lexington in London. So Santa Fe, well, not native, but residing in the city, town. It's town, is it?
I call it a town. It's a capital, but it's a town.
It's okay. We'll call it town. Okay. So yeah. Very shortly after having consumed the album, really got to grips with the album we will review soon. So this May 2025 was essentially a crash course in Esther Rose, or crash course, to be less Sean Connery. This was a show. She's touring Europe just herself, so not able to bring the band over with her, but getting out there with a guitar, an hour-long set. She's a great raconteur, and yeah, just wheeled through almost all of the latest album, which was a good thing, as we'll hear. Plus a few of her hits from her other 4 albums, and yeah, really good show. And yeah, thank you, Kiley. So
yeah,
I
have a question for you.
Mm.
How does one find the band Y, the EP Y? I put it into Apple Music here, and we've got Destiny's Child, we've got Rihanna, we've got a few other rappers that are going by Y, which I don't think Y is hip hop.
It's not hip hop, so no, just literally the one letter Y, and then. I mean, I was a bit concerned myself when trying to look for their music afterwards, but I don't know, still on Spotify for no sins, and it fortunately came up. Maybe I don't know, maybe because I've listened to Warm Douche in the past. I don't know. Anyway, one for the team at Apple to advise on.
Yeah, just our continued discussions of Googleability of modern bands.
Didn't used to be an issue back in the day, but now there are some band names or artist names you see. And
imagine that, like on a festival lineup. It's like, oh, is that a typo? No, that's a band.
Yeah, I got a lot more than I was expecting when I saw the blurb about them and thought, actually, this could be a band worth seeing. So, yeah.
Yeah, you guys know this is a pet peeve of mine. So, bands, if you're watching this, think of the SEO quality of your band name, please.
Something different, which won't get lost in the maelstrom of what's already out there, and ideally, easy to search. So, I fully agree with that. I hope it doesn't take too long to find. But don't know. Instagram, there might be Why the Band. I'm not sure. Because I'm following on them on there. Well, we're on it, so I will quickly look now. Why? So they got a nice easy Instagram. _Y_Y, and that's the letters. Then _Y as in WHY. Then _Y the letter, _Y the letter. Easy. Right. So I'm glad I looked. So that we've had the festival, we've had the gig, and following Karl's order, next is the album, and the album I'm going to just quickly run through is the latest from Segall. It was out last Friday. Possession. Already listened to it a lot. 10 songs. The length, and a bit of a renaissance for Ty. And last year I was feeling fairly disillusioned with the output. I had high hopes for Three Bells. We all went through that in January last year, and patchy.
More like Three Hills, am I right?
Three Heights, yeah. Of the re-release in 10 years' time, and and then we had Freckle this year, which was a side project he did with another musician, and which I really loved. And then as per usual, just throwing out another album so quickly after that, and this one sees a return to form for me. I think the 2025's been pretty good, pretty restorative for someone who's probably had quite a patchy 2020s in my book, considering some of the output in the 2010s. But yeah, really, really strong 10 songs. I think particularly right at the back end, it kind of really gets going, almost to the point where you wish that there was maybe a couple more in the same vein. But it gets quite orchestral, and some kind of bolder sounds and more confident than particularly the ones which were on display with Three Bells. So one I really enjoyed, and I will just give. Probably making up for most of the months where I've done less than three. That are just a small shout out for someone we reviewed also on the show. I think maybe our very first, when he was known as Patch Notes, and Kiley, you brought him to the table then. Album we really enjoyed then, and Endless Summer. He's now known as Limerence. There are quite a few Limerences I had to go through actually.
That's a tough one too.
On the SEO front. So
easy to look. Love Limmy though. That one. Yeah. That's how I've been doing it. Love Limmy.
The name of the album. Yeah. Or look for the flowers after you've typed in Limerence. And Patch Notes was potentially easier to find, but anyway, that small note aside, just another one to shout out, and kind of a friend of the pod as well, who kind of supports us as well with what we do. So really enjoyable chill wave album, and I've enjoyed those kind of Boards of Canada-esque moments, which is very conducive for working. So there we go. We'll now finally get onto the album. So very long one from me. So thanks for sticking with us. Our first album is what is it? Let's go to the script. Is 21st Century Fiction by the Amazons, and this was Karl's pick. So over to you.
Yes, I mean, I think I mentioned back in our album of the year episodes, this was my most anticipated album for this year. A band I've seen go from, unsigned, playing to a handful of people, to now being, for my money, like one of the best rock bands operating today. Certainly one of the best live performances I've seen. I've seen them 17 times, the most I've ever seen anyone. So I mean, that's a testament to just how much I rate their live show. But yeah, one of my favorite bands, a band that I hold very dear. And yeah, it's one of those that just because I feel like I've been on this journey with them, almost like a proud dad, like watching from the stands this whole time. Each time we break,
six, Dad.
yeah, six music dads watching the Amazons from the stands, as they've just released project after project. And I think this was one where the signs were there that this was going to be a step up from anything that they had done before. You know, the 2 singles that they had at the end of last year, Living a Lie, which here is like this cinematic opener, these like thunderous kind of like industrial guitars that come in. And then, the second single, Pitch Black, with the, bluesy stomp, big chorus, and then that, just absolutely incredible guitar solo at the end. Straight away, like, became one of my favorite songs of theirs. Just absolutely adore that track. So my expectations were high, and then every other single after that, it was like, Love is a Dog from Hell, Night After Night. Then we had My Blood, which features Royal Blood on drums and production. Every single song, it was like they're knocking it out of the park with these. And so for me going into this one, I was already like, well, if the remaining few tracks are at this level, then this is going to be the best album that they've done. And for me, it is exactly that. I mean, without going into too much of the context of the record, I've read in interviews that from frontman Matt Thompson said they approached this album like it was going to be their last album. As we know these days bands, you just don't know if you'll get a chance to make another record. So they kind of had this existential crisis. It's not easy being a rock band in 2025. And I think, that sense and that mood kind of runs right through the record. Although they nod to, other things that like, social media misinformation and doom scrolling and, all these things that the title 21st Century Fiction kind of suggests. For me, it's very much a personal record. There's that angry and like defiant spirit that shines through. It's that feeling of, we're not going to watch this band just die out without a fight. We're not going to take a back seat to all these, nostalgia rock bands anymore. We're coming to own this, and we're not going to wait for our turn anymore. I think that feeling just really resonates in the music. They leave nothing off the table. Yeah. And I'll just quickly shout out some of the star performances on here. Chris Alderton, for me, has long been, one of the best lead guitarists in the game. But I think this is the album where he really proves it and like makes it undeniable on this record. Wake Me Up, for me, it just might be the best song that they've ever made. Just when my favorite bit is just when you think it's wrapping up towards the back end of that track, and then all of a sudden Chris just comes in with this other guitar passage that's even more mind-blowing than the one that you just heard. It's just, absolutely sensational. And then if that's not enough, we get Joe Bought a Gun straight after as well, with those super heavy riffs that just, they just metaphorically grab you by the collar, shake you about. Big shout out to Chris. But then also want to shout out Ella McRobb, whose vocals are a new addition to the Amazon sound for this album. She's an up-and-coming singer-songwriter who's under the same management. The Amazons are a big fan of her voice, got her on this record. And I think she is just spectacular. From the opening cries on Living a Lie to the breakdown on Pitch Black and My Blood, I think her harmonies just add so much to this collection of songs. And last but not least, Matt himself, I think lyrically, and vocally, it's the best work he's done. And the one that kind of culminates it for me is "Go All the Way," which is very much, it's kind of like this centerpiece for the record, even though it's the closer. It's kind of like, I feel like it's the song that captures that feeling of the record. The blood boiling passion and emotion in his voice on that song, it just radiates through your headphones. And, when it gets to that point in the song, it just gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. You can hear how much like this means to him. And yeah, just an outstanding song and just an epic way to close out the record. And yeah, so yeah, this is one of those where it's one of my favorite bands making the best album they've ever done, and I just couldn't be happier with it. It's ambitious, it's cinematic. I think from a skill point of view, I think it's hugely impressive, jaw dropping at times on the guitars front, as I mentioned. And yeah, I don't think there's a bad song on here. I think the way it's structured with like the interlude passages that kind of gives you those much needed moments to kind of catch your breath, and before you're on to the next, big hitting rock track. But then it also ties it all together and brings a sense of cohesiveness to the record as well. So yeah, absolutely love it. Love the Amazons, and there's a good chance come December this might be my album of the year. Love it.
So delivering for Karl, did it deliver for you, Kiley?
I'm going to keep it easy and breezy because Karl, I've known for the last year how much you've been looking forward to this record. I think a lot of the things that you brought up, I do agree with. I think Chris Alderton is an amazing guitarist and has some phenomenal tone on this record. And then also Ben Thatcher, because I was thinking almost every song for me, besides the guitars, the drums were the standout, and Ben Thatcher's from Royal Blood. So I think it seems like they don't have a steady drummer, maybe for studio stuff right now. And I think he did a great job.
Well, it's
on this
George, I think it's George Clark.
George LePage.
Or George LePage, that's the one. Yeah, I think he's
Is he the one touring with them?
Yeah, I think he's the one who's. But yeah, Ben Thatcher's on My Blood for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess the two of them, just really great work. I think more than anything, this is just a classic culture clash for me. This kind of anthemic UK stuff is something that I haven't really ever been drawn to. Like, I think a lot of it reminds me of, Muse in some ways. Some of it reminded me of, can't remember the name of the band, Bono Juniors.
Inhaler.
Inhaler, a little bit of that. But yeah, I think it's just, for me, that this record is it's kind of relentless. I don't disagree that Matthew Thompson is an amazing vocalist, but like every single song to be so over the top anthemic is just, it's too much for me. And I think when you talk about "Wake Me Up" being their favorite song you've ever had, like, to me, that's kind of where just the record kind of gets stuck. And I'm like, I don't know. Also, "Love Is a Dog from Hell." The thing I really appreciate about that is that song alone seems to have gotten them some alt country tags, which I think is really funny. And it's kind of a fun song that doesn't really, fit in with the rest of the record. So enjoyed, the boldness with that one. Then "Go All the Way." The note I had on that one for the first half was like an Oasis ballad from their last couple of records that I think people have forgotten about when they're clamoring for this reunion. So anyway, I think it finishes strong. And I think the album should have been called "Go All the Way" because they really do on every song here. I think it'd been a good fit for them. So yeah, I think there's parts of it that I appreciate, and I think they're a really, really talented band, just from my listening preferences wasn't necessarily my thing.
There we go, 1-1 in terms of the reviews here for 21st Century Fiction. I also went in with a little bit of caution, knowing how much, Karl, you're a fan of the Amazons, and I've never really kind of gone beyond sort of. I saw a bit of them at Reading, I think, one year, enjoyed it, but I've never kind of gone beyond that and listened to them for a full album like I have done here. But happily for you, Karl, this is one which really has kind of won me over, and yeah, I was loving it, I gotta say. Just add a third chorus of approval for Chris Alderton and what he's doing, shredding on the guitar here. It's fantastic. It's kind of straight down the line rock, which I kind of feel there's maybe not enough of, and explains one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of Ty Segall in that respect. But yeah, I just grew to really love this album. I think you mentioned, most of the tracks which really fly. Living a Lie and Night After Night just really, sets the bar. But if anything, I think it's kind of from Wake Me Up, in opposite to yourself, Kylie, in the sense that from that point on, that's where I feel that the album really soars. And then Joe Bought a Gun. I was listening to that when I was doing this review, and on my headphones on the train, and that was one where I just had the hairs go up on the back of my neck. Just that song for me, possibly best song of the year so far for me. I just love the drama, the build up. It's one of those classic kind of 3-minute 30 kind of numbers, which they say is the magic song number. Well, and this one, that's what I felt, and just I haven't felt that kind of visceral reaction, I think, to any sort of music probably since I listened to Sipo's album for the first time, which we reviewed about a year and a half ago. So just that one, fantastic. Love Is a Dog from Hell, great fun, as you say, Kylie. And then Heaven Now. I actually had in this one, and this probably touches upon some of the critique from yourself, Karl, that there was a nature of Muse and Queen to it. So that kind of full throttle, and I suppose if that kind of rock is not really your bag, then this won't really be for you. I'm probably more Muse than Queen, or at least old Muse. But yeah, this for me is just it's kind of classic rock, but in the 21st century, and just hits so many of the things I would want to hear in an album. Touch upon the themes as well. There's a lot. It's pretty much fixed to relationships ultimately, and a bit of this should I stay or should I go kind of rumination. But yeah, really compelling, and one which will be in the running also for me, I think, when it comes to the end of the year. So, from the Amazons, we move on to our second album, which is If You Wanted a Picture by Blondshell. This was our poll winner, so thank you for your votes. Kylie, I think this was your poll pick.
Yeah, I think it was. We talked about 2 years ago, Sabrina Teitelbaum, her debut record, self-titled Blondshell. I don't remember. I think that was the top 3 record for me, and easily my favorite debut of that year. And so, I was pretty happy to so quickly get another record from her here. And I think if you were into the self-titled one, you're going to be into this. This still is very 90s worshiping. This album reminds me a lot of Hole's Celebrity Skin in some ways. It's very confessional. I appreciate Sabrina Tadabon's honesty with everything and the way that she kind of lays it all out in every single song, what she's feeling and, what's going on around her. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Uh, I think early feedback from the three of us is a little slow getting in, and TNA, which was the second single, I think is still kind of one of the weaker songs on here. So it's kind of an interesting single, but I think, there's a good recovery here, and yeah, really solid. I think if anything, I was digging into the credits, and same producer, same studio as the first record. Different mixer on this record, and for me, this one is kind of below the debut because of that commercial sheen that's kind of throughout this record. I liked Blondshell's rawness, musically on the first record, and I think lyrically this is still a very raw record, but it's just a little poppy around the edges for me to be as excited as I was about that first record. But overall, I think this is a great sophomore album. It's definitely not a slump. And, as we were just discussing, you never know if there's another record. I would assume she's going to have another record. And this is just one of those that makes me curious to see what she does next, because I think she's done a very good job of exploring this 90s grunge with this updated pop sheen to it. But I'm kind of curious to see if there's, something a little different after this.
There we go. So great sophomore effort. Karl, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we were all in agreement that, Sabrina's self-titled debut as Blondshell was one of the best, debuts of, was it
2023?
Yeah, it was. Oh, that was a good guess. I think we had because I remember, because I was like, if we had our wild card entry in that first album of the year poll, there's a good chance that would have made it in there because we were such a big fan of that record. But yeah, I think it was just a really assured collection of alt rock tracks, plenty of highlights on that record. I remember Salad being one of my favorite songs of that year. But then you've got, Olympus, Sepsis, Veronica Mars, so many great cuts on there too. So fairly strong expectations going into this, the difficult second album. And I think she's pretty much nailed it. As Kiley says, it's another, I'd agree. It's another kind of strong outing from Sabrina. Basically gives fans everything they loved about that first album. But I do feel there is a natural evolution to it as well. Sonically, I'd say there's, maybe some new textures that appear. Lyrically, she's a bit more tender and heartfelt in places. And I mean, not that there weren't moments like that on the debut, but you can tell this time around, she's kind of like refined the formula a little bit. And lots of highlights again. Thumbtack, I think it's a gorgeous opener. Reminds me of the Cranberries, when it gets to that chorus. I actually quite liked TNA. I thought it was, quite moody, quite catchy single. What's Fair is one of my favorites, I'd say. It's got that, what she does so well, that real, late 90s, early noughties alt rock vibe about it. Which I think, Kiley, you'll get this. It feels like a lost cut from the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. Or maybe like 10 Things I Hate About You, those kind of...
it could have been the Gigolo Ants.
Yeah, that's it. Just, could just awesome guitar work at the end of that one. And really great track. And then 2 times, I love that mandolin sound that kind of comes through. And again, we get more shades of Dolores and the Cranberries, which is never a bad thing. And then, it gets to that back end, and I just love that run of from Change through to I think it's Man. Yeah, I think the only ones that don't really hit the same heights, there's a couple in the middle, and like the closing track, maybe do let it down slightly, but for the most part, I, like Kylie says, if you enjoyed the vibe and nostalgia that Sabrina created on that debut, I think you'll very much find yourself wanting to come back to this album as well. So, yeah, for me, Blondshell 2 for 2.
Yeah, and I'll say 3 for 3 off the bat. It wasn't so much the case on early listens, and I think I shared that with you guys, that I wasn't really digging it straight away. I didn't have that immediate appeal, which potentially the debut did, particularly with the kind of Veronica Mars. As soon as that sort of hit, I was like, okay, I'm into this. It's only like a minute long or whatever, that track, but yeah, that one I really, it was a complete accident, sort of getting one of these emails come through for the 5 to 9 account and going, I'll just pick a random album here, and that was ended up being a great find, and been really happy to see kind of how much that has really lifted off her career, and saw her at the end of that year, 2023, at Lafayette, and which was a great show. So yeah, the difficult second album. Initially, just I suppose TNA was my first exposure, and I wasn't loving it. I think on the album I've grown to like it more than I did as a lead single. But actually, some of the other singles which have been released subsequently is where I feel the real kind of gold is on this album, and particularly the trio of Event of a Fire, 23's a Baby, and Change. That for me is kind of the best sort of part of the album. And if it had been all like that, then this would be a serious contender in 2025. So yeah, the lyrics, as you've alluded to, continue to be, very candid. She's just looking on Wikipedia before we joined here. She's 28 years old. So this is a young woman in the limelight in her 20s, and really just letting it all out there. So but I think there's a greater maturity on this second record, and the more I listen, the more it sort of really took a hold of me. And I think, you probably do get a bit of a slight evolution, which very much probably apes a lot of what you said, Kylie, in terms of I don't think she could do this again. It does feel like first album, really strong. Second album, similar kind of vibe. But yeah, I'd be intrigued to know what some dipping her toes into different genres, what that might sound like. The lyrics are, as we've all acknowledged, are strong. So taking it to different places, I think would be interesting. Basically, probably goes alongside what you said about Nation of Language before as well, Kylie. Like just seeing if there's another musical direction which could be taken, but that's for another day. So ultimately, second album, good evolution. Some fantastic tracks on here, which really add to what she's doing. And yeah, someone who I think will continue to get stronger and one to keep an eye on, for sure, in her musical journey. So yeah, 3 out of 3. So, and speaking of threes, our third album is Want by Esther Rose. So back to you, Kylie. A second mention of Esther after the shout out for the gig, which I went to earlier in the month.
Yeah, May 2nd was a big release day here in Santa Fe. Besides Free Range Buddhas, we had the current jewel of Santa Fe, Esther Rose, who has, I think, this is her third record. Typically in the past been more of a country singer-songwriter vein. And, there's plenty of slide pedal steel guitar on this record. but I think this record for me was really exciting because she's gone in a little bit more of a rockier uh, direction. I think down to I like the dichotomy of the album cover, one with her in the white dress and then one with her in the leather jumpsuit. Kind of shows the two sides of this record. And we were just praising Blondshell's lyrics. For me, this is even better. I think it's a more mature look at a lot of the same things, and kicking off with the title track "Want," just shifting the comparisons of I want this, but I don't want what comes with that. Um, just really, I connected with that quite a bit. Um, really like Dean Johnson. He's a Seattle singer-songwriter. When he shows up on Scars for a duet, really like that. And one does a really good job because, as you can attest to, Andrew, a lot of times Esther plays solo. A lot of times she's with the band, and the band tracks on here are fantastic. And then the solo stuff like Messenger, I think, is just as strong when it's just her and a guitar. So yeah, this has been you know connections aside, just I think one of the great pleasures of the year for me. Really enjoy this record, and very happy for her getting all the bigwig coverage and really stepping it up here.
There we go. So, Karl, what did you make of Want?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll tell you what, I have enjoyed these last couple of months. We had Nottingham with Divorce in March. This month we've had Reading with the Amazons, and now we've got a taste of, for the Santa Fe music scene as well with Esther Rose. So I like how that's kind of lined up. Get a little taste of each other's local scene over the last couple of months. But yeah, I didn't know anything about Esther before this month. But yeah, just what a lovely little record this is. I mean, you mentioned that opening title track, Kiley. I mean, that just hooks you in immediately. Love the arrangement. Love that, living a real life refrain. Love I mean, lyrically, like you say, what she does lyrically on that song, easily one of the highlights. Just a fantastic way to start the record. Also love Ketamine. That's the name of a song before anyone comes at
me. We're gonna just take that out of context and have that on the 5 to 9 channel.
No, please don't do that. But yeah, I got those grungy guitars and that wonderful line again. I noted it down. You look so sweet when your eyes get a little sleepy. I love you absolutely completely. So I thought, yeah, lyrically, as you say, Kiley, she's got a great turn of phrase. And I think that's where, as you say, that's where this record really shines for me, is in her songwriting. Rescue You straight after, fantastic as well. Then we get that Dean Johnson collab, beautiful harmonies on there. And yeah, there's a few moments on here reminiscent of Waxahachie. So if anyone's watching, listening, and is a fan of Waxahachie, definitely check out Esther. Because yeah, similar vibe, and yeah, in my book, never a bad thing. Yeah, and yeah, New Bad and the Clown, really enjoy those two tracks. And then the one that I want to shout out in the back end, Color Wheel, which is like this, yeah, really striking moment in the back end where you just get Esther and these minimal acoustic guitars and like that piano. It's quite unlike anything on the record. And, those moments always stand out to me. I think that's really lovely. And then, yeah, Want Part 2, really strong closing track. I think for me, yeah, those two kind of bookend tracks, the way they bring the album together, lyrically, sonically, probably my favorites on here. I know you mentioned Messenger, Kiley. I think that's the one that that's maybe a miss for me. I think because she's so strong lyrically in other places, obviously that one's a bit more repetitive. And yeah, I think that's the one where if that was off the track list, I wouldn't have missed it. But that aside, really lovely, easy listening record. Some really great highs on here, and definitely the 2 Want tracks are right up there for me. And yeah, really enjoyed this. And great to get a further flavour of, after Free Range Buddhas, get a further flavour of Santa Fe into my ears this month. So
yeah, it's a good flavour. So just as I mentioned, it's been a kind of Esther Rose month basically, and again, kind of that nervousness when having you said, "I'll get you a ticket for the show and stuff," and then I go, yeah, and then you kind of go, "Will I like it?" That's the kind of thing, and well, have I just signed up for an evening in London where this kind of thing, and then thankfully, with the benefit of listening to Want ahead of that show. I was fully in on this one, and I think Dichotomy really sums it up really well. I don't know if it's the Gemini in me, which loves dichotomy in music. But as you mentioned, the album cover with the wedding dress and then the black kind of leather outfit. Seeing her at the Lexington, she was wearing a very modest kind of black t-shirt, but then she was wearing black leather trousers, and that again was kind of like, there's the laid back kind of country styles, but then I can also be a rock chick, and this album kind of does both. And it's one, I just really, to be honest, with all the ones we do on this pod, I do my kind of amount which gets me to review, and then I usually park it. But with this one, I just have just kept going. So I got the CD at the show. I've given it to my mother-in-law, who's quite into country music, and I said, "Yeah, give this a go." And I just think this is one that's just really nestled in, few tracks which I particularly enjoy. Color Wheel is one you mentioned, Karl, for its uniqueness, I suppose, on the album. Also, the production on that is just incredibly minimalist, which I quite like. You always hear it's like an echoey room in parts of it, but not like by everyone. I did read a review which kind of took that apart, which I thought was, I don't know, I liked it. So, the clown, which I've come to learn is about herself and not going out with a professional clown, which is what I thought it was about. But again, just excellent. This is part of a quartet of songs in a row, and I'm actually going backwards from Color Wheel being the 10th song down to the 7th. New Bad, which I think ultimately is the dichotomy song, which, well, actually it's the devil on the shoulder, like, you know what, I am bad, I'm gonna make these mistakes, I'm not to be trusted, and that so goes against the lyrics in most of the other songs where she's wanting that settling down, and I suppose that's a nice arc back to the title track, in terms of just things not being so straightforward, and not just I just want the easy happy-go-lucky relationship vibe. Actually, you know what, I also want that freedom, I want that free life, and kind of being the bad girl as is kind of referred to in that song. And opposite to you, Karl, but Messenger is the start of that quartet of songs, which I absolutely love on this album, and reminded me a bit of kind of Elliott Smith with the kind of intimate, vulnerable vocals on there. I thought the lyrics are actually quite trippy. And it's kind of that, I don't know, referencing, are we in control of our own thoughts? Where do they come from? The song which easily could have been induced somehow. Not that it is, and particularly knowing Esther's story she ran through, and being sober now for a number of years. But that's the kind of vibe of that song, and I like that kind of psychedelic acoustic number, which unfortunately was not played at the Lexington, and that was my one main gripe about that show, particularly as it was an acoustic song on the album, and she was doing anyway. Rescue You, about this like troubling court case, and another one really highlight, and Ketamine as well, which is actually about kind of using ketamine as like therapy, basically, like small doses and stuff, and kind of, getting through tough times. So those sort of 6, I suppose, are like for me the absolute pinnacle of this album. I love the 2 title tracks, Want and Want Part 2. Tailspin featuring Video Age is another great track on here. Scars was probably on the one on the album I didn't love as much, but live it really brought it home. And so I've actually retrospectively upped my score on that one, which basically means no bad track for me on this at all. And another one which, we had the Amazons at the top, another one which is very, very high on my overall list for the year so far. So there we go. We move on. 4th album is Animaru by Mei Semones. And this was my pick. So could have gone for Ty again. But I was quite excited to see what.
Why'd you went with this?
I thought you might be. Yeah. I mean, I was excited to see what Mei would do on a full-length effort, a debut full-length effort. I reviewed her EP last year and was just took to this fusion of English and Japanese lyrics, this kind of arch indie rock, quite folky in parts, and just some pretty music, but also some good crunch when the kind of electric guitar gets plugged in. So intrigued to see what she could do on a full length. And with Animaru, I think it's an extension of that EP, basically, and that's not a bad thing at all, because I think it's just going to another level with what she does, which I can't think of any other artist who does this sort of thing, to be honest. And some interesting genre dives here, quite a bit of bossa nova, particularly opening track Dumb Feeling. You get some orchestration and strings on quite a few of these tracks as well. And it just takes you on a journey. It's quite light, I think, and I suppose the danger of this album is that it can kind of pass you by, and go in one ear and out of the other, which I get. I think with Donguri and Norwegian Shag, that duo is possibly on the more forgettable side of the spectrum of what's on offer here. But on the title track on Dango Mushi or Danjo Mushi, don't know which it is, but and then with Zarigana, I think those 3 are the top tracks on here. And it's just nice to see that there is a buzz around her, because again, it was one of these kind of EP things which came in last year, which just took a punt on. Quite often it might not be an artist who's got to get that exposure, but it does seem that she's got a bit of a tailwind behind her, and I think even an Enemy front cover not so long ago. So really great to see her continue in such a form and take her music to hopefully a wider audience, and someone who is, if she's playing in the UK, is someone I'd very much like to go and see, and interested to see what journey she'll go on. But for me, very strong, promising debut album, up there with Divorces perhaps in best debut albums this year. So you're nodding your head, Karl, so I'll go to you next.
Yeah, I mean, excellent pick this month, Andrew, for sure. I mean, Mei Semones, not someone I knew anything about before, despite her press coverage, it seems. But with this being a debut, I guess not completely unexpected. But what a wonderful introduction to Mei's world. You guys know I'm a sucker for a good string arrangement, and this album is just awash with them. Yeah, like I just love those, stuttering jazz influences that come through. And yeah, it's just a really interesting listen from start to finish. Enjoy the first two tracks. Then the song I Can Do What I Want. I think for me that's up there in terms of the highlight. It's got really sweet like melody to it. Again, like those really fleeting like cinematic elements coming through in like the orchestration. It almost like threatens James Bond at one point, but then it vanishes like as quickly as it arrives. Like those grand moments, and then it kind of settles back in, which I really like. Um, and then yeah, the title track straight after, love the groove on that one. Dongori, obviously you mentioned that one reminded me a bit of Feist. There's definitely like I almost had the 1 2 3 4. Tell me that you want me more like melody in my head. I think it's very similar that one, but obviously yeah, Japanese influence rather than Canadian. I think Feist was Canadian, but yeah.
Is yeah. We're not breaking anything here. Boris, as far as we know, still alive.
Yeah, I should have worded that better. But yeah.
Or changed nationality. There's two ways we could take it. We probably went for the Starker one. Yeah.
But yeah, where was I? Yeah, Norwegian shag. We're going to another nationality now. Yeah, not just the best. I mean, it's definitely the best song title on the project, but also probably like the best string arrangement as well. Yeah, just glorious the way. It kind of shuffles and sweeps through your headphones as you're listening to it. Really like that song. And the other one I just wanted to shout out was the final track, which, I won't butcher by trying to pronounce the name of it, but again, just a really sweet, delicate ending to the whole project. It briefly, kind of like that track early on, it briefly threatens to like erupt towards the back end, but instead it just kind of fizzles out, and then it floats off on like again like the beautiful strings, kind of similar in the way that the whole project kind of arrived. So yeah, not too much more to add. I think it's like you say, Andrew, sonically fascinating debut. Love the Japanese and the jazz influences coming through in the music, and it just makes for a really enjoyable listen, and it's one that doesn't overstay its welcome either. So yeah, one really great first outing, and looking forward to hearing more from Mei and where she goes from here.
Oh, good. So Kylie, were you enthused by Animaru?
Yeah, I think this one's a 3 for 3 for us. I also was not familiar with Mei Semones, and now while we've been doing this, reminded myself to save the other EPs so I can go and listen to them and figure out the journey here. But yeah, the indie jazz, bossa nova, Japanese, English stew that we're cooking up here. It's a really great record. I get a lot of, especially like on Zaragani, reminds me of Jason quite a bit, which is a compliment for me. I love Jason, and more of that, please. And yeah, I think it's a lovely little indie pop record. And, we've over the last couple of years talked a lot about how, the indie pop thing can kind of be towards the end of its rope for me, but this one I really enjoyed. And I think here's the funny thing about this record for me is that I have listened to it a whole bunch, and I will play it and I will put it back on again, and it's this little snack that I really enjoy. There has not been one song that has like been stuck in my head or that I like recall, so that's like it's such an interesting situation because I really like the record. Um, there's just a little bit missing, but that's okay. It's a debut record, and go from here. And yeah, I think a really, really solid debut. I'm happy with this record.
Great stuff. So maybe for album number 2, just slightly longer songs to and
Yeah,
more
maybe
repeated
she does
refrains to get.
grunge and Blondshell does bossa nova.
I
Okay.
would listen to both of those.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, 2027.
Yeah, yeah.
You're on. I mean, we probably need their agreement, but yeah, we're decided on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so another strong album we've had in this month. So we come to our final album, which is Something Soft by Mail. This was selected by our guest picker, Adam Reeve. Adam co-runs the excellent Dead Good Music blog, and you can follow his work on Instagram through the handle @deadgoodmusic_. So I'm going to kick things off here. Mail. I mean, that's on the assumption that neither of you two knew too much about Mail before. In which case, no. Okay, we're all kind of going in blind to the Mail experience. This is their second album. Dublin band, post-punk. And yeah, it's got to leave its mark. It's initially not much fun. I got much I got from this album, despite a runtime of 29 minutes. You know, I was put in mind of Kylie sometimes sort of saying, that's a long 29 minutes or something like that. 29 minutes. And that was my initial thoughts. But over the past week, I've been playing it more, and this very spare approach to post punk and kind of intentionally kind of guttural outputs which they come up with. It reminded me a little bit of Goat Girl, the album we reviewed last year, where they've tried to use a different approach with less kind of pleasing instrumentation, and trying to find what we can do with it. And over time, there's some songs which I've grown to really like here. I think let's focus on one of the strong notes here, which is some of the lyricism, or at least the inspiration behind some of the songs. And one of the better songs is the opener, Pursuit, which is essentially a female perspective of trying to wear shoes which will help when walking on the street because of this paranoia about potentially being followed by a man, and not an unfounded paranoia or kind of unfortunately rare experience. So you get that in that song, with this kind of 2 or 3 notes on the guitar just carrying it along, and then it just builds into this crescendo, which kind of sums up the kind of mental state which I think that song is built in. You've got You Are Temporary, but the Internet is Forever, which is kind of concerning how you might have a different online persona to where you are in real life as well. I kind of found some of the lyrics in that quite humorous, still look great on the internet, and apparently finding out that you've died by looking on the internet and questioning whether you're a ghost now. So yeah, there's this kind of wacky approach there, and just if you're going to listen to one, maybe try 1-800 Call Me Back, which as far as I'm aware is the only song which is paired kind of old Nokia phone notes as the basis for a tune in a song. And it kind of makes me laugh, but it's also catchy in its own way. And yeah, I've got here that it could, you could mosh to this kind of old phone sound. So there's a bit of nostalgia, swirling around there as well, for a song which is essentially about being ghosted. But yeah, so I enjoyed some of the humor on here, even though there's a lot of serious kind of themes throughout the album. But I've focused on the songs I enjoyed. Sorry, one more, Snare, which has quite an enjoyable drum beat. And actually the story behind that's quite a good one, and sums up the fury behind a lot of this on the album, of the singer basically being told that she can't play the drums because that's a male instrument, basically. So she sort of puts that fury into this song, and the rustic percussion on this song as well is a highlight. But I've gone through the highlights. I mean, the rest of it is a stretch. It's not a comfortable listen. It's quite jarring. I'm all for kind of, scuzzier arrangements, things which can be a bit more challenging. But I did find probably the rest of the album just a step too far. And then there are some moments which, I found borderline unlistenable. So yeah, I think that some good ideas, some good arrangements, but nothing really beyond a good EP from this set of songs is what I could glean from it. So yeah, I went with Karl last time, so I go Kiley for your thoughts next here.
Well, you'll be to Karl soon, because I didn't enjoy this record at all. We've covered at length the idea of post punk in 2025 is not really my thing, and I guess I kept on going back to not necessarily musically, but this reminded me a lot of the Lambrini Girls record that we reviewed earlier in the year. That male just thinks they're cheekier than they really are, and I guess I'm just not in on the joke. For example, you've got a song called Vin Diesel, but there's no mention of Vin Diesel or family, and it's not as fun as the Fast and the Furious movies. So I'm out on that. I'm surprised that this came out on Merge Records, who are just one of the legendary indie labels that put out nothing but bangers. And when I was listening to this and looked at the label, I was like, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, yeah, I did not enjoy this record at all. It's noisy, it's not fun, and just a little snotty around the edges for my taste.
How about you, Karl? Any glimmer of hope in this review?
Yeah, I mean, let me start by saying Something Soft is a hugely misleading title, which obviously by design. There's not much soft about this record. You kind of mentioned it. The guitars are harsh. They're abrasive. They're just big walls of distorted static that, for the most part, are just not fun to listen to. I mean, I think it starts out okay. Pursue and I Miss My Dog are easily like the high points here for me. Quite like how those songs build and escalate, and you can hear like an element of cohesion and some interesting guitar grooves in amongst all like the cacophonous noise kind of around that. But then, I mean, after that, the album, sadly, it just becomes irritating, repetitive, and the biggest crime for me is it just sounds hugely uninspired. You Are Temporary, you get this, that I Didn't Know I Died refrain, which you mentioned, Andrew, which, it's over some distorted bass line that is, the best way to describe it is like someone just poking you in the ears, like the entire time. DMAM is, the worst offender for me. It's just really shit, superficial lyrics delivered in like an annoying voice with, irritating static and distortion. And then E8 and 16, the one good thing I can say about that track is that it's less than 2 minutes long. But on the downside, it's 1 minute 50, which is, 1 minute 50 too much. So the song is, it's just listing out some boys' names over more like horrid guitars that it just sounds like someone loudly farting over a car alarm is what I wrote down for that song. It's just,
Nobody beats TikTok post punk. That's
that's
what this is. TikTok post punk. Who cares?
That's it. And then Vin Diesel, we get more vocals where it sounds like they just can't be bothered. Clementine, just more half-baked noise and painful yelling. Snare, you mentioned Andrew, starts out promising. Obviously, it's got a good message behind it. It's got a decent bass line, some tight drums, but then it just descends into the same like inaudible screech in like the final minute. And you mentioned 1-800 Call Me Back. Honestly, if I wanted to listen to that, I would literally just ring an invalid number. I don't need a song that basically just adds some. It's basically just that, but they add some really kind of half-baked guitars over the top of it, and then they wrap it up with that coda, which sounds like a demonic possession happening, but I actually think being possessed by a demon and going through that is probably more enjoyable. So I feel, it's one of those, like, if you like this album, all the power to you. But for me, it was literally a chore. It was pretty much the antithesis of the Mei Semones record, where it was like, don't get me wrong, you guys know I appreciate, it's punk music. It's not meant to be nice or pretty, but I still expect, to just see like the effort and the artistic vision in the record, even if it's not for me. And for me, it just fit. Like everything here just feels really lazy and like a pale imitation of other artists right now. If I wanted something in this vein, I'd go listen to Man of Quinn Pussy, their record from last year, or even something like the Horrors debut album from 20 years ago, like that first album. There was moments that reminded me of that. There's also another Irish band who I can't recall their name at the moment, but they also do really interesting things sonically, where they play guitars with violin strings, and that's a bit kind of like punky in the way that they kind of put their arrangements together. I can't remember the name of that band.
Just Mustard, no?
Just Mustard, yeah, that's exactly the one. So yeah, I mean, for all the good music coming out of Ireland right now, this is the dirty underbelly for me. Just like, uninspired and unenjoyable.
I think that's a no. But so yes.
Yeah, I could have summed it up a bit shorter, but I wanted to do it justice.
It's you just joined us for 606.
You put more effort into that review than they did the record.
So yeah, there we go. We end on a bit of a low from what was a pretty good month. Otherwise, we now move on to the verdict. I feel like I just should put in the 3 points for male immediately. I'll be shocked if I add any more. So give me your 4s, basically, unless I'm mistaken.
I mean, I could go first. I mean, this was tough. Yeah, so after male, this was really tough. But I've ended up on 4 Blondshell, 3 Esther, 2 Mei Semones, and number 1 is the Amazons. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing May's wrong. I appreciate it, probably am.
Well, we all have, so it'll be all of us. So Kiley, give us your 4 to 1.
A regretful Amazons at 4, Blondshell at 3, Mei Semones at 2, and Esther Rose is 1.
Okay. So for me, at 4 is Blondshell, 3 Mei Semones, 2 Esther Rose, and Amazons my number 1. Which means we have a tie.
Does he get it despite the? Oh wow!
Again, but very quickly established because both Karl and I went for Amazons as number 1. So they and Esther Rose both on 12 points. But yes, the Amazons take it.
Way!
It's fine. So congratulations.
Side for the badge.
Congratulations to the Amazons for winning our album of the month for May 2025, and Reading taking it over Santa Fe, I suppose, if we're gonna go to that granular level. Next month we'll be running the rule over new albums by Haim, Hotline TNT, Little Sims, and Mo Lauder and the Humble. As we record, the public poll for the 5th album is open, but so far looks like BC Camplight will be taking that spot. And as ever, you can stay up to date with what we're up to by following 5 to 9 on X and Instagram, New Music Central via @Karl Blakesley via Instagram and Threads, and Mama Mañana Records via @Mama Mañana Records on Instagram. Thanks for listening.